Good morning and welcome to the Friday edition of Church at Home with Rachel. This is Friday, the 16th of September. 17th? I have no idea what day it is. 17th of September. Sorry about that. And I come to you because wearing my orange, it says Every Child Matters shirt. And I know that it isn't the 30th of September yet for the National Day of Remembrance, and it's not Orange Shirt Day, but it's always a good day to wear an orange shirt. And the reason I decided to wear this today was because I'd like to talk a little bit about the election on Monday. And those two things may seem like, what's the point? Orange shirt, election Monday, what's the point? Like, what's that about? Well, what it's about is the fact that every time we go to an election, we make a decision. We make a decision that impacts the life of our society. And I've heard lots of arguments about, I'm not a progressive conservative or conservative of any kind, and I'm living in Alberta, which every seat always goes to conservatives anyway, so why would I bother to vote? It just, it's a wasted ballot. That is hooey. It is never a wasted ballot, no matter who you're voting for, whether you're conservative voting in a liberal or an NDP riding, or you're a green and you never have a hope of getting your person elected. The fact that you cast your ballot, that ballot counts. That ballot, whoever you've voted for, I think in particular, if you vote for the person who doesn't win, it actually probably speaks more in my mind than those who vote for the party or the person who does end up winning. Because that person then goes off without thought about to do the job and to do it well or not to do it well. As we have seen in the past, there are some MPs out there who work their tails off for their constituents, and there are some MPs who sort of buy into the party line and fall in line without question. It seems to be more about the being a member of such an august body rather than actually serving the people. But that's a rant for another day. When you cast a ballot, it's important because it's showing that you, as an individual, as a citizen, as a person, are exercising your right to have an opinion, to participate in the life of your community, in the life of your nation. And I cannot overestimate how important that is. What would happen if every person who just thought, well, what's the point of voting? Because nothing is ever going to change. If every person who felt like that just didn't bother to vote, what would happen? A lot of people would be elected into office without a sense of the reality of their world. For instance, I'm living in the Battle River region in Alberta, and it's most definitely going to go to the Conservative Party. I am more than willing to admit I am not a conservative. I'm not entirely sure yet who I will vote for, but I'm not a fan of where the Conservative Party has gone in the last 20 or 30 years. Back in the Stanfield days, that was before my time, but from what I've read, that was a Conservative Party I would have been proud to stand for. But this is not the Conservative Party of the Stanfield sort of era. So I'm still praying and reading and deciding who I will cast my ballot for on Monday. The point being that if I cast my ballot and lots of other people cast their ballots contrary or not for the person who will eventually win, they have to pay attention to that. It doesn't mean that they're going to vote in ways that, for instance, say I voted NDP. It doesn't mean that they're going to say, oh, there was a number of people who voted NDP, so I should vote that way on this vote. They won't. They'll vote the way the party tells them to vote, because that's sort of the way it seems to work. But in the back of their mind, they will know there are people in my community, in my constituency, who think differently than my party does. And if they have integrity as elected members of parliament, they will keep that in the back of their mind. They will argue at their caucus in their party's room about, I know this is party line, but how do we make this law or this legislation so that it is not only applicable but accessible and appropriate and necessary for all of the people, regardless of who they voted for. That's what I want to do if I vote, when I cast a ballot for someone who is not going to be the winner. it's a given here. I know that whoever I vote for is like but it would take some miracle for that to things to turn over in this region. So the thing that I'm thinking is that it's important for me to cast my ballot because it's not a ballot of dissent. It's not a ballot of I don't like you, so I'm not going to vote for you. It's a ballot of this is what is important to me. This is this party that I'm voting for. This is the platform that I feel most comfortable with. I don't think there's very many people in Canada who would say 100% I agree with this party line. This is every single thing they say is exactly how I feel. It's more a matter of where do my values fit the best? Where do I fit into which party, into which do I fit that speaks more to who I believe I am as a person, as a Christian, as a stepmother, as an employee, like a person who works, all of the different places, the ways that we live our lives. Which party or which person fits best to what I believe in and what I find to be important and necessary for my country. That's how we really vote. And so when lots of people don't vote for somebody and they get elected anyway, it behooves them to think about that, to really think, okay, so not everybody in my region agrees with my party's policies. I'm still going to work with my party, but how then do I help all of those other people who maybe feel disenfranchised or who think differently? That is a very Pollyanna way of looking at a member of parliament. I realize that. But there are very few people who are going to, think that way when they actually get in and take the seat in the House of Commons. But I hope and I pray that one day all of our members of parliament would be that way. Can you imagine what our House of Commons would look like if each person actually maintained the ideology of respecting others, of treating others with dignity, of really listening and working for the people and not simply for the party or the keeping yourself in power. That is what I hope for, and that's why I vote. If I quit voting, I don't have the right to complain. I don't have the right to expect anything. But yet I'm going to go out and I'm going to vote and I will probably complain and I will most definitely I will expect great things of every person elected because that is the Canadian way. And the reason I'm wearing my orange shirt today is because part of what we're doing on a federal election day is we are standing up and saying what is important to us, that our country is important to us. And for me, one of the things that is very important to me and on the national agenda should be our Indigenous brothers and sisters, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls of action, clean drinking water in every community of this country, regardless of who does or doesn't live there. We need to be taking care of the least of these. And at this time in our life, the Indigenous peoples are really the least of them. They're the people that have been thought of the least. They're the ones that get tucked and tossed to the side because they aren't powerful or important enough. Well, that's Hui too. They are powerful. There is a strong voice coming from our Indigenous siblings in communities across our country from coast to coast to coast that is beginning to stand up and say, you were wrong to treat us like we were not people. You were wrong to underestimate us. And we invite you to learn from us. There are teachings that our Indigenous brothers and sisters and siblings can share with us that will help our world, our climate, the way we make decisions, the way we treat one another, the way we govern ourselves. And those are not things to be scared of, but they're things to embrace and to educate ourselves about. And so when I go to vote on Monday, it is very important to me that part of my voting is to stand up for things that are important to me and things that I think are important to our country. And so this will be an important part of what I do on Monday when I cast my ballot. Who I vote for will need to be someone who stands up for people who have been stood upon. It will be for someone who stands up for the right of every Canadian to have fresh drinking water, clean drinking water. It stands up for the right for every person who has reached the age of 18 to have the right to vote and to participate in the determination of their future. We all need to work together. And if we can throw aside the rhetoric and skip the hate ads, the fear-mongering and the mudslinging and the stone throwing for just a few minutes, We might find that we have a country that's worth getting up on Monday morning and going out to vote for. And we might find that whoever ends up our prime minister, whether it's a return of Trudeau or O'Toole or even Singh, whatever might happen Monday night, that we can celebrate that democracy is alive and well, and we have the ability to work together to change our country for the world. So please prepare yourselves this weekend. If you haven't already voted in advanced polling, read up, check things out, pray about it. Pray about who God would call to be the leader of this nation, and then go out and cast your ballot. And don't ever think that your ballot has been canceled out by your husband or your wife's ballot if they voted for the opposite person to you, or by the fact that, you're living in a place where it's a guaranteed Liberal or a guaranteed Conservative or a guaranteed NDP seat. That doesn't matter because your vote counts. It says something. Your vote says something. So take advantage of that voice that is your vote and go out on Monday morning and vote. I'm not going to say vote often. It's just not right. But go out and vote. And when you cast your ballot, say a prayer for both the person you have voted for, the person who will be elected, and all of the people who have offered themselves in service. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless you. And I will see you again Sunday for mini church on Sunday afternoon and Monday morning for Church at Home with Rachael.